On March 16th, 2020, a YouTube channel called Roy Wyson was created. A video was uploaded that same day. The description reads, "I look beautiful." The video depicts a silhouette of a person standing at the end of a hallway. An unsettling melody plays as the video lingers on this shot. Shortly before the video ends, a loud knocking can be heard. At first glance, one might write this video off as a shallow, very telegraphed attempt at a jump scare. But underneath the surface of this creepypasta-laden affair lies a dark tale of intrigue, depravity, and cybernetics. In this installment of Nightmare Masterclass, I will be exploring the question, who is Roy Wyson? Continue at your peril. Hello and welcome to Nightmare Masterclass. My name is David Stockdale. I'll be your host on this excursion into the dark unknown. Before we get started, I just wanted to say that if you enjoyed my videos, maybe think about supporting me on a monthly basis at patreon.com/Nightmare Masterclass. With that out of the way, let's proceed. As best I can gather, Roy Wyson is an ARG. That stands for Alternate Reality Game for those who aren't in the know. Simply put, ARGs take storytelling to a whole new level of depth and interactivity. Well, the good ones do at least. ARGs use multiple formats in order to convey information to the participant. They're largely defined by a certain interactive quality. There tends to be an element of give and take between the game designer and participants. If you watch my Petscop investigation series, you might recall that while Petscop toyed with the idea of interactivity as a thematic conceit, this level of interactivity was not immediately present in the work. Ultimately, it was a creepy web series. In this case, however, there do appear to be some indications that Roy Wyson is employing certain conceits typically associated with ARGs. But admittedly, I'm not entirely clear on that. The series doesn't have very many subscribers at the moment, so I'm hoping to get more of you on the case if you're so inclined. After all, ARGs are a collective experience. They require a dedicated community of people who are actively engaged in the story and committed to solving the various puzzles presented to us in order to really get the full experience. So, with that in mind, I'd really like you to check out the channel prior to listening to my breakdown. There's a good chance you might catch something that I missed. I just wanted to say up front that I don't yet have a cohesive understanding of the series. This video is more of an exploratory sort of journey. I do hope my observations prove useful, but I don't want to mislead anyone by claiming that this is the type of explanation video one might come across in reference to a given ARG. One thing to note about this particular work, Roy Wyson, is that the format in which a given video appears is a strong indication of the time it was recorded within the fictional universe of the work. Or at least that's the rationale I'm using to try and make sense of this ARG. So when I say that we can date a particular video back to, say, the 90s, what I'm really saying is that the work is indicating a fictional timeline, not that the video was literally recorded over 20 years ago. Although some footage may indeed be from previous decades. For instance, a video uploaded on July 16th has a clip at the end with 4 televisions playing the exact same footage. A news report from 2008 entailing the merger between Merrill Lynch and Bank of America. The series fosters this sort of detective work when it comes to the timeline, and that enables us to think in historical terms about the content of the videos. At this point, I'm going to go over my findings point by point, based on the order in which videos have been released to the public. Without further ado, here we go. As stated, the very first video in the series depicts a shadowy figure standing at the end of a hallway. 3 knocks are heard right before the video ends. Again, the video description reads, "I look beautiful." Now let's briefly discuss some findings which stem from the channel's About section. A number of years are included in the description. The range spans from 1993 to 2020. A handful of years are missing from the sequence and certain years recur. It's wholly unclear to me what this is meant to represent, but if I had to guess, perhaps these are the years in which certain key events have taken place within the fictional timeline of the series. Every time a year is referenced in the series, I will refer back to this sequence to check for any notable correlations. Additionally, a garbled series of letters appears at the end of the description. It's an anagram for cipher, visionaire. This will prove useful a bit later. A website is listed in Roy Wyson's links section. Notably, the link contains 2 zip codes, both of which indicate that an area in southern Utah is somehow related to this fictional storyline. The URL is styled after something you might see on the dark web. It offers K2 spice for cheap, along with other illicit substances. Now, to me, the K2 reference is a dead giveaway that this website is something of a tongue-in-cheek sort of send-up to dark web practices. In other words, this is a parodic, amateurish version of something you might see on the dark web. The site is called darkpentis.net. Note that pentis is a genus of flowering plants. Most species in this genus are native to Malaysia. It's unclear to me whether or not this is significant or if the creator just thinks pentis is a cool sounding word. The website was supposedly established in 2003, but the Wayback Machine doesn't have any snapshots whatsoever. Links on the page go nowhere. While in reality this website is probably a recent creation, perhaps for the purposes of the story, we should operate as though it was established in 2003. The website purports to be hosted by a company called PEC Servers. As you might have guessed, this is not a real company. It's yet another ruse created by the artist behind the Roy Wyson ARG. Let's take a look at PEC Servers' website. For starters, the image on the landing page appears to be a stock photo taken in Iceland. That doesn't tell us very much, but the About section on the website notes that Exercy.com is for quote-unquote personal business. Yet when you type in the URL, it links right back to PEC Servers' landing page. First off, I'd like to index the ambiguous nature of this phrase, personal business. It's not at all clear what that means, leaving room for some fairly sinister interpretations. At any rate, the word exercy will come into play very soon. The FAQ page is under construction, and needless to say, this website is crafted to make it appear amateurish, similar to the mock dark website connected directly to the Roy Wyson YouTube channel. PEC Servers has a login for their forum. I haven't yet been able to access this if there is indeed an actual forum. Their About page notes, forums.pecservers.com, forum for tech and shitposting. May be broken, was made for fun. The login page says, PEC Servers Inc., TM, keeping your storage safe since 2019. Which is a weird way to talk about servers if you ask me. It almost sounds like they offer other storage services in the fictional universe of Roy Wyson. But that's just some speculation on my part. 10 days after the first video's release, a new video titled Passage was made public on the channel. The video depicts a heavily wooded landscape with a small creek leading into a dark area. Foreboding music plays. On March 28th, several new videos were released. The first is titled Old Willis. The video is in black and white. It's also heavily distorted. Specifically, a lot of noise seems to have been added, but the noise doesn't seem to have been applied in a uniform fashion. This is perhaps security camera footage. An old gateway box and a bicycle can be seen in the foreground. Another gateway box is discernible in the background. Its distinctive spotted cow pattern is a dead giveaway. If I had to guess, I would say this is a garage or some kind of storage area. The date at the bottom left says 11/2/14, and the time reads 2:18 a.m. An image flashes around the 7-second mark. It's a highly distorted image of some buildings with the number 8 etched into the screen. That same day, another video was released. Its title, Searching. This video depicts another heavily wooded area, and as far as the music goes, we have a series of high-pitched synth tones. Yet again, the video is distorted. A significant amount of noise has been added. A couple of frames in the shot depict a heavily distorted, multicolored image with the number 4 etched into the screen. The video description contains 3 links. Each is from packservers.com. It seems we have some more videos. The first is labeled 2. The video is dated July 1st, 1997 at 4:54 p.m. The camera person walks towards the front of a bus. The camera lingers on the driver's seat, which is notably empty. Another bus pulls over. Text is discernible on the side of it, but I can't really tell what it says. If I had to guess, I would say it says saintgustin.com. Saint Gustin is a port in France. There's very clearly some text above that as well. This very well could be an advertisement that is unrelated to the project, but take a look for yourself. I've messed with the contrast a bit. The next video is labeled 3. It's dated February 9th, 1995. The time in this one is 1:56 p.m. The video depicts the outside of an enclosure, maybe an entrance to a basement. The camera appears to be mounted on the ceiling. There's a door in the corner and a horizontal window covered in chicken wire going across the top. Plants are draped over the top of the enclosure, and there's a metal box with all kinds of buttons on it mounted to the wall. The following video is labeled 4. Clearly, it's been recorded on a more modern camera, hence the higher definition. The aspect ratio would seem to indicate that it was taken on a cell phone. The video itself is very short. It depicts a door with some kind of vent going through it. A bug plants itself on the door. A couple of scratch marks are visible on the door itself, and on that note, the conditions of the room are clearly pretty dilapidated. The next video is labeled Home, an ominous sign considering the video itself depicts a darkened tunnel. A thumping bass tune plays. Yet again, a considerable amount of noise appears to have been added. Additionally, a figure with a blacked out face can be seen in a single frame of the video. The number 7 is visible. The next video was also uploaded on March 28th. Its title is Yeha. Note that Yeha is a town in Ethiopia. Obviously, that is not necessarily the connotation here, but it is worth noting. This video is a bit shaky. Really, it seems like a static image that has been shaken around in the editing process. The video depicts an outdoor speaker that has been erected near a tree. It's unclear what this speaker might be used for, but the imagery itself calls to mind a prison yard. A festive tune can be heard, although it does sound like it's been slowed down quite a bit. One commenter notes that it sounds like the cantina music from Star Wars. I tend to agree. In a select few frames, a gas station can be observed. The image has very clearly been distorted, perhaps to cover up certain details, but we do have some indication that this is a Sinclair gas station. The number 3 is etched onto the screen. The final video made public on March 28th is labeled Netting. This video depicts a wooded area with another shot of a small creek. It's unclear whether this is the same creek as the one in the video labeled Passage. There appears to be an uprooted tree on the other side of the creek, although it's difficult to say because, again, the video is heavily distorted. We have yet another few select frames in which a hidden image is shown. This time, the image itself is a bit more unnerving. See for yourself. Additionally, the number 8 is visible towards the bottom of the shot. A few days later, on April 3rd, another video labeled Deet was released. The video description contains 2 words, alone time. This video starts with a QR code. The code itself contains a series of numbers which are identical to one of the zip codes previously seen. So again, Utah is referenced. Shortly after that, you can see the distorted image of a light source. The image becomes clear towards the end of the video. It's some kind of light mounted to the ground of a dilapidated old building. 10 days later, another video was released. The first thing to note with this one is that the title of the video is written in an Indian language known as Gujarati. The title itself translates to Raja. Note also that the video description reads, Raja has arrived. For reference, Raja is a royal title that is roughly equivalent to the concept of a king. This video appears to be in the VHS format. You can tell by the distortions and antiquated aspect ratio. So perhaps it's from the 90s. Interestingly, the video contains Morse code. I took the liberty of translating it. It says, "He is here," and then the letters F-O-R-G. What's the speaker trying to say? Forgive me? Forget? Forgo? The code appears to repeat itself as a deep voice speaks in a language I don't recognize. The video depicts a person who seems to be walking on the side of a road in a remote area. The camera pans to a figure standing in the woods. The head is a pale white color. On April 15th, another video was released. Again, the title is written in Gujarati. It can be translated as follows. "He is my king, I am his servant." The video opens with what appears to be a menu. Note the format, Compact Disc Interactive, or CDI for short. This technology was released to the public in 1990 and discontinued in 98. So it stands to reason that the video was recorded at some point within this span of time. And if you didn't catch the format type, the intro is a dead giveaway that we're dealing with some quality 90s media here. The video itself is a compilation of various clips of what we can safely assume to be the mysterious figure seen in the previous video. I performed a spectrogram analysis on the audio, and there's very clearly a message embedded within it. It reads as follows. "Raja is happy. My soul is gone. I regret this. Raja is happy." A new video was uploaded on April 22nd. Tellingly, it's labeled 1998 to 2000 footage. The description reads, "My life's work." This video depicts a series of cryptic images. Let's go over them one by one. The first image appears to be several cave paintings. Note the large eyes on the figure to the left. If I didn't know better, I would say there's an ancient aliens motif going on here. I was able to determine that this image is rock art. Specifically, it's a pictograph from Sago Canyon in Utah. Note that other clues within the ARG indicate that Utah is an important location. I was able to trace this image back to a clip from a Spanish language television program called El Experimento Extraterrestre no y el Diluvio Universal. This program speculates that the biblical story of Noah's Ark is connected in some way to extraterrestrials. The next image is a shot of some scrolls written in a language I couldn't initially identify, much less understand. The next image is some kind of icon. It almost looks like a ceiling fan to me. I was able to determine that this image is a schematic related to something called the Sundara Vimana. Vimana is a mythical palace from Sanskrit epics that is said to possess the capability of flight. In a lecture to the 102nd Indian Science Congress, Captain Anand J. Bodis made a series of outlandish claims about the capabilities of such aircrafts. He said the ancient Indian aeroplane traveled from one country to another, from one continent to another, and from one planet to another. Additionally, he said such crafts could move left, right, as well as backwards, unlike modern planes, which only fly forward. The image itself is from a treatise that was analyzed by aeronautical engineers at the Indian Institute of Science in 1974. Their findings indicate that the document is not all that ancient. The engineers claim that it is no older than 1904, the year of the Wright brothers' first successful flight. They also state that the aircraft described in this document constitutes a gross violation of Newton's laws, essentially writing off the document as a piece of pseudo-science. Back to the video. There's a quick handful of frames depicting some text in a language I'm not familiar with. The next image is in black and white. It's a structure, perhaps a temple. The image flickers with the occasional frame distorted by light. The source of this footage can be traced back to this photograph, taken in 1874. It's the ruins of an extant Hindu temple in Gujarat. Note that many other textual clues within the work indicate that Gujarat is significant. The next image displays some kind of elaborate carving, the likes of which you might see in an ancient temple. And the following image shows what appears to be the interior of an ancient structure. I trace back this interior shot to the Temple of Seti I. This particular shot appears to be from the somewhat infamous helicopter Hieroglyphs. Ancient Aliens proponents claim that the artifact depicts a helicopter, which obviously flies in the face of, well, everything we know about the history of technology. However, Egyptologists dismiss these claims on the basis that the image of the hieroglyphs has been retouched so as to remove essential context. The final image is a close-up shot of a piece of writing similar to the one seen towards the beginning of the video. A new video dropped on May 17th. This one is, in my view, one of the most intriguing videos in the series thus far. The title sounds to me like a confession. I did it. The video description is a Vigenère cipher. The key is exerci, a word previously referenced at numerous points. Once decoded, the description reads as follows. I have done it all, and I love it. Sometimes murder is the only solution. This is a rather stark admission of guilt in a code that wasn't all that difficult to crack. Something tells me this is attention-seeking behavior as opposed to an actual admission of guilt. Is it bad writing, or perhaps more interestingly, some kind of misdirect? Maybe it's a red herring. The video begins with two hands opening a door leading to a basement. A set of chains appears to be hanging from the ceiling. Note that In Chains by Depeche Mode is one of the songs playing in this video. This indicates to me that someone is being held against their will. After this, we get a shot of a broken window with a sign on it. It reads, "Warning, do not enter. Biohazard." Then we get a shot of a television showing some microscopic organisms. I can't say for sure what this is depicting, but the implication here seems to be some kind of bacteria or virus. Next up, we get a shot of an empty fridge. Various dishes are scattered on the floor. The video cuts to a person driving on a highway. Based on road signs, it would appear that this footage was recorded somewhere in Asia. I know that really narrows it down, right? Several images flash on the screen during this segment. First, we see the mysterious figure shown previously. Perhaps this is the infamous Raja. And here, we see the figure with the blacked out face shown previously. And then there's this grotesque image of a face. Next, we see an image of a cartoon character. I've heightened the contrast and rotated the image so you can see for yourself. If I didn't know better, I would say that's one of the damn Animaniacs. The driving scene ends. A photograph of a woman is briefly shown. You can't really make out her face all that well, but one interesting detail is that she's in front of what looks like a mansion. Shortly after this, the name Melinda Ballard is shown within this strange graphic. Then we get a series of clips depicting a rundown old building, mostly interior shots. It kind of reminds me of Dan Bell's Dead Mall series. A brief clip of VHS footage appears at around 1 minute and 20 seconds. The footage is dated October 31st, 1996, Halloween. I think that's the year I dressed up like the Red Power Ranger. Take a look at this handsome fella. Jumping ahead, one clip focuses on a photograph of a gymnasium. The clip fades into footage of that same gym, but this time it's filled with a bunch of crap. Similarly, a shot of an empty indoor pool is shown. Note the gigantic hole in the wall. The shot fades into a photograph of the pool prior to its deterioration. In the next shot, a person with a blurred out face can be seen on the second level of the building. Towards the very end of the video, another VHS clip is shown. It depicts some kind of fan with the brand Mercury prominently displayed. This clip is dated July 19th, 1994. The very last clip depicts a leaky pipe in what I surmise to be a flooded basement. Now, in the video description, several songs are credited. As noted previously, there's In Chains by Depeche Mode. There's also Slow Blow, another one by Depeche Mode, and Olsen by Boards of Canada. I should also note that I recognized another song towards the end that is not referenced in the description, and that would be Mistake, Don't Touch Me This Way by Moby. Another video was uploaded on May 17th. This one is only 11 seconds long. It depicts what appears to be a work area or perhaps a basement with a concrete floor. Some kind of liquid is coming out of a small white pipe into a drain. There's not much else going on in the video. But interestingly, this video's title is encoded in base 64. Once decoded, it reads, "My Victim's Final Home." So we have yet another unequivocal admission of guilt. If the video is connected in some way with this message, perhaps one of the so-called victims has been dissolved in acid, which would of course make this drain their final home. This is a disturbing speculation to be sure, but it is just that, speculation. Additionally, the video description contains a series of years: 2000, 2007, 2018, 2019, and then 2020 is listed twice. The description for this video contains a link to another video. It no longer appears to be available, but fortunately I was able to download it prior to its mysterious disappearance. The video depicts a user making their way down a road on Google Maps. It's a remote area in Utah. Notably, this is the street view in 2008. The view in 2020 shows a freshly paved road. How does this remote area in Utah relate to the story? Another video was released towards the end of June. Again, the video title is encoded in a Visionaire cipher. Once decoded, it reads as follows: "People that deserve to suffer will pay, just like Linda." Needless to say, this raises the question, who is Linda? We've previously come across the name Melinda Ballard, and I think at this point, it's not a stretch to assume this is precisely who the speaker is referring to. The video itself is only 19 seconds long. It depicts what appears to be an old man sweeping in the back of a shed or some kind of structure. After that, we get a quick shot of a series of garbled text. It's yet another cipher. Once decoded, it reads as follows: "My victims are my prized possessions. They deserve to live with me and with me only. They are lucky that I give them a home. I don't understand why they try to escape and don't do what they're told. Dark tunnels are where I am most comfortable and where I dwell. I have traveled around the world to find evidence of Raja's people and how they lived. I quickly learned all they want is pleasure. Pleasure from the souls of human beings. My life is very unique from other people. Sometimes death is the only solution." After this display, the video cuts to a couple of industrial pumps, or at least that's my best guess as to what these things are. As you can see, they contain red and yellow liquids, respectively. A new video was made public on July 16th. The title for this one is just a skull and crossbones. This video begins with an abstract image along with a wondrous synth track. The song is interrupted by a disembodied voice accompanied by this unsettling image. I took the liberty of transcribing what this voice says.
Cybernetic bodies became available within the marketplace to rent or own, and entire colonies made of digital transferred consciousnesses existed and thrived independently on the internet. It wasn't an uncommon thing for multiple digital personas to merge or fracture to create human personalities born on the web, and depending on the parent personality, these children, referred to as netborns, may or may not experience the physical world for themselves. We as a species became so malleable and intertwined with technology, there was no way to measure the true population of the world.
There's a video at the end with 4 televisions playing the exact same clip. It's a news report of the proposed merger between Merrill Lynch and Bank of America, which was described as a shotgun marriage due to the ongoing financial crisis. We all know this clip must be from before January 2009, when the merger was completed. We can also deduce that it was recorded well after the financial crisis was in full swing. So I think it's safe to assume this video is from 2008. Another video was released on July 24th. Its title is 14 and 19. This video is dated April 15th, 2009. The first scene appears to be dash cam footage of a person driving through a bustling city. Initially, it was difficult for me to determine the location. Upon a cursory inspection, it seemed like this very well could have been a city in the US. But based on a few key details in the video, I've determined that it's actually downtown Berlin. The clock jumps forward a few minutes to 1:04 a.m. in the following clip. What follows is POV footage of a person entering a rave. Now, a link was listed in the video description for this video, and wouldn't you know it, it leads to another video. The file name on this one is labeled Canned. This one is dated September 30th, 2019. The video depicts a concert. I'm unclear on exactly who is performing, but it's some kind of techno music. Not exactly my thing, but, whatever floats your boat. At first, you might assume the person filming is simply recording the performance, but at around the 8-second mark, a red circle appears on this woman here on the balcony. Is this Melinda Ballard, the woman referenced in previous videos? Recall that the file name for this video is canned. Has someone perhaps been fired? On July 31st, another video was made public. This one contains a rather lengthy message. My work in the deep web trade started with netborns. I made most of my money selling them on the market. I was introduced to netborns when I was working in a branch of Hezbollah called the CRGH, Cyber Research Group of Hezbollah. The group no longer exists. I was the only one that was never sentenced. They showed us what netborns were and how they were used. How we and other people use them, however, I am not allowed to share. I can at least share a little of how the process of creating netborns is performed. The life of a netborn either changes dramatically or it is unique from the start. Traditionally, you live with a human between 12 and 45 years of age, or have a wife to completely dedicate their lives to raising a netborn. Usually the second way doesn't always work out. The process of seizing a human doesn't matter all too much. It's about doing it in a manner of which the victim has no communication or way of getting away. The minute they wake up, the first thing they see is a screen and nothing more. They learn how to become experts in hacking, malware, polymorphic code, worms, etc. They are truly amazing. I became so obsessed with them, I started creating my own netborns. I left Hezbollah and disappeared. I know if they found me, I would be eliminated. I changed my identity and started a new life. I quickly learned to never trust anybody and to never show people my work. My life was going great until one day, something I thought would never happen, happened. I once had a partner. Her name was Melinda Ballard. We were in a relationship and making a fortune at the same time. She was the first person to realize that the work I was doing with netborns was really a genius way to make money. One night I lost everything. Unfortunately, at that time, she had access to my bank account. The night before everything happened, I was telling her about a new victim. She seemed a little shocked of how I captured him, but wasn't acting abnormal. It was a normal night from then on, and we went to sleep. I woke up and she wasn't beside me. I tried calling her. Nothing. No replies from emails. The next thing I heard was a knock on the door. It was a man saying the house was getting evicted and I was bankrupt. I realized I was played. It was all a game to her, a plan from the very beginning. She thought she was going to get away with it. The video description contains a hexadecimal code. When converted to regular text, it reads as follows: netborns will thrive. They will become the most powerful weapons known to mankind. Data is never safe to netborns. They always find a way. The last video to date was released on August 15th. Note that the video title is an anagram for stalk. The video depicts a person without a shirt sitting at a desk working on a computer. They appear to be engaged in some kind of coding activity. The subject is wearing a strange mask. The person operating the camera comes up to them and creepily pets the mask. The video cuts to black at the 25-second mark. There's something going on with the audio in this one. Note that the music gets increasingly louder throughout the video. A voice repeats a series of numbers. It sounds to me like 63110. If that's the case, that's the zip code for St. Louis, Missouri. After this, the voice repeats something. It's difficult to make out. I've messed with the EQ a bit to try and isolate the voice. I still can't tell exactly what it says. The very end of the video depicts footage from a security camera of a toddler standing on the rim of their crib. That's impressive. The toddler's eyes appear to be glowing. The kid's name is revealed in the decorations above the crib. Connor. The footage is dated May 5th, 2016 at 2:49, presumably AM considering the darkness. So that's the last video on the channel, but I've got one last major finding I want to note before debriefing. A Google search on the term PEC servers yields another item of interest, PEC Video. It's clearly modeled after other video hosting sites like YouTube, Dailymotion, and Vimeo, but there are only a handful of videos on the actual website. This is very clearly connected to Roy Wyson because one of the videos from the channel is available on the website. And then there's another video which I would venture to guess is connected. This video depicts a person traversing through the woods. They begin running as though they are being chased. The video's title translates to, "He tried to escape." This is the last finding I've come across. I will point out here that nothing is really certain when it comes to Roy Wyson. We have a wide range of references from all across the world. The videos can be said to evince several broad themes. One of them heavily references ancient aliens. Other videos appear to allude to both human trafficking and murder. There are multiple references to the state of Utah. And bewilderingly, there are numerous allusions to cyber warfare and the Islamist organization known as Hezbollah. This ARG is like a mix between Mr. Robot, Sicario, and maybe Zodiac. But even upon a close inspection of the videos, even upon analyzing the various hidden frames throughout the series, there's no definitive explanation as to why this content is being shown to us, at least not as far as I can tell. Is this a flaw in the writing? Is the series simply incomplete? Am I missing something critical? All of these things are entirely possible, but I have a certain theory which I think may tie everything together. It's a bit counterintuitive, so bear with me. A so-called netborn, one of the captive subjects referenced in the lengthy explication from the video released on July 31st, is in control of the channel. The captive victim has managed to start a YouTube account, which seems to be flying under the radar of their captor. Now, this netborn is in the process of exposing their subjugator through a series of abstract, non-linear videos and other hypertextual materials, enticing to digital sleuths of many varieties, including yours truly. This is precisely how someone born and raised in this digital world might operate. So while the videos are filled with found footage and other miscellaneous material, they also contain sensitive information that the netborn has managed to procure from his captor. At this point, you might be asking the question, if this person is really in trouble, why obscure the message through ciphers, cryptic signifiers, and references to ancient aliens? And I think the answer is clear. It's because that's how you get the attention of nerds. Create a puzzle, and inevitably, a certain contingent of people are going to try and solve it. At this point, I do have some mild criticism of the series to offer. For starters, the suggestion that the antagonist of the series is a former Hezbollah operative strikes me as a bit trite. To me, it evokes stereotypical portrayals of Middle Eastern terrorists during the Bush era. I'm not sure what the creator was going for with this plot thread. I can only really offer my own impressions at this point. Like, I don't know, maybe that whole plot thread is a goof. The other point of criticism I have is this work falls into some traps that I think are really quite common with ARGs. As you know by this point, ciphers and hidden messages are scattered all throughout the series. I don't have an issue with ciphers per se, but I do think they need to serve a particular narrative function in the work. And while I have offered a certain narrative justification for this, in some cases Roy Wyson seems to present puzzles for their own sake. This is certainly not unique to this particular series. It's an issue I have with the vast majority of amateur ARG attempts. That said, I've obviously devoted a fair amount of time to exploring this particular work, and the reason for that is, well, while it is a bit clumsy at times, this ARG has managed to keep my interest. I've sort of had to grapple with why that is, and here's the best explanation I can offer. Note that in the very first installment, the video description reads, "I look beautiful." My interpretation of this is the netborn has achieved a certain kind of agency, or rather a kind of recognition of their own agency, which has perhaps been initiated by looking at their own reflection in the mirror. Or rather, in this case, a recording of themselves in the mirror. After all, a fairly clear interpretation of the events in the video is that the subject seen here is filming themselves in a mirror. If this is the case, it also stands to reason that the creation of this YouTube channel represents the next phase of this recognition. We can, of course, call to mind Lacan's mirror stage, the notion that infants coming to recognize themselves in the mirror represents an important moment in their development. Specifically, it induces a process known as apperception, the ability to view oneself as an object from the outside. This is specifically how I'd like to contextualize the sentence, "I look beautiful," in the video description. This video establishes a new stage in the development of the protagonist, the captive subject, a so-called netborn. I don't know if this is right, but if this interpretation is on point, it would seem that what we have here is something far more intriguing than what I initially expected. In Chuck Klosterman's 2016 book, But What If We're Wrong?, the essayist speculates about the possibility of new art forms in our increasingly digitized world. Interestingly, he suggests the potential for hypertextual narratives to take shape on the dark web. And while the content of this creepy web series is not literally on the dark web, it does exhibit the aesthetics of dark web imagery. Moreover, the work touches upon something profound in its concept of the netborn. Now would be an opportune time to discuss certain issues pertaining to the intersection between horror and cybernetics. The topic of cybernetics has been constructed over time, largely within the last half of the 20th century. In 1948, Norbert Wiener defined cybernetics as the study of control and communication in the animal and the machine. This definition is quite broad, but useful for the purposes of unpacking this concept of the netborn in Roy Wyson. As best I can gather, a netborn is presumably a person who has been subject to some horrific process of Pavlovian conditioning in order to navigate cyberspace and pursue the dark ends of their captor. Recall the line, "The minute they wake up, the first thing that they see is a screen and nothing more." If the video released on July 31st is any indication, so-called netborns are sold on a black market through the dark web, although the speaker is not permitted to say how they're quote-unquote used. Nonetheless, I think it's fairly clear that some kind of hyper-exploitation is going on here. Here's another thematic motif I want to discuss. In the horrific vision established by Roy Wyson, it should come as no surprise that women are relegated to a certain subordinate status by the antagonist. And this, I would argue, is an important thematic conceit of the work. Note that the July 31st video evinces a certain patriarchal value system. The message suggests that this dirty business of netborn trade entails that one might have a wife to completely dedicate their lives to raising a netborn. The speaker notes that this rarely works out and proceeds to regale the audience with the tale of Melinda Ballard's betrayal. Donna Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto laid out the groundwork for a certain liberatory concept of the cyborg. Cyborg is a cybernetic organism, a hybrid of machine and organism, a creature of social reality as well as a creature of fiction, says Haraway. Social reality is lived social relations, our most important political construction, a world-changing fiction. In this manifesto, Haraway ironically embraced the philosophical concept of the cyborg as an organizing unity. In a line of reasoning often categorized under the header of posthumanism, Haraway critiqued Western philosophy's reliance on certain dualisms such as the distinction between nature and culture, as well as the conceptual divide between male and female. She argued that technology had the potential to radically problematize and even break down such conceptual boundaries. Haraway wasn't alone in this embrace of the cybernetic. In 1994, philosopher Sadie Plant argued that cyberspace was innately hostile towards the masculine identity, thus there was no need for women to quote-unquote feminize this terrain. That same year, philosopher Nick Land made a sweeping, extravagant claim regarding an ongoing process of decentralization in our technology and economy.
There is a very similar pattern that you find in the structure of societies, in the structure of companies, and in the structure of computers. And all three are moving in the same direction. That is, away from a top-down structure of a central command system, giving the system instructions about how to behave, towards a system that is parallel, that is flat, which is a web, and which change moves from the bottom up. And this is going to happen across all institutions and technical devices. It's the way they work.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug. In all seriousness, it's quite easy to make fun of Land's statement now, but at the time, it's clear that the possibilities really seemed endless to many reputable thinkers. But alas, it is clear that Land was wrong. The economic reality is that corporations have utterly dominated the sphere of technological development in a process of concentration and centralization. Notably, Land reacted to this by rejecting democracy entirely, instead advocating for some neo-feudal fantasy that's not really worth entertaining here. Over the past few decades, we have seen these utopian hopes dashed away when it comes to the emancipatory potential of cyberspace. Perhaps these thinkers underestimated capital's ability to subsume everything it touches. Hopefully, this is a temporary defeat, the loss of a small battle in an ongoing war for the emancipation of all people. There is a sense in which we've really only just begun to see the effects of, say, the propagation of the internet on our broader culture. But I do think the default assumption that cyberspace initiates some kind of overarching liberatory process is something that is not obviously true in 2020. Roy Wyson shows us the frightening inverse of this radically liberating vision, in which the emancipatory potential of cybernetics and technical advancement have been co-opted and transmogrified by oppressive forces. In this case, a former Hezbollah operative, now human trafficking agent, appears to be manufacturing these so-called netborns for a profit. Perhaps a work like Roy Wyson touches upon what must be overcome in order to achieve the liberatory potential of technology. As far as the narrative goes, the possibility of abolishing or at least shedding light on this horrific practice is the intuitive resolution. So we'll see how it goes. It's a safe assumption that the ARG is an ongoing event, so keep your eyes peeled for future videos, and let me know if you'd like me to continue this analysis as the series progresses. I'm also totally open to suggestions about any other works you might want me to cover. That wraps it up for this installment of Nightmare Masterclass. Again, if you enjoy my videos and want to support me on a monthly basis, you can do so at patreon.com/Nightmare Masterclass. Thank you for watching, and good night.